A legacy at a crossroads, the UN General Assembly and its defining moment. The United Nations General Assembly stands as a symbol of global cooperation. Established in 1945, it embodies the hopes for a world united after the horrors of World War II. Each year, world leaders convene for this diplomatic gathering. The General Assembly serves as a platform to address pressing global challenges. However, the 79th session comes at a time of unprecedented global turmoil. From the escalating conflict in Gaza to the ongoing war in Ukraine, the UN's relevance is being debated. The UN grapples with questions about its efficacy. Critics argue that the UN is bogged down by bureaucracy and political maneuvering. They point to the limitations of the UN Security Council, particularly the veto power of the 5 permanent members. Proponents emphasize its role in promoting dialogue, diplomacy, and humanitarian efforts. The 79th General Assembly represents a pivotal moment for the organization. It is an opportunity to reflect on its past, confront its present limitations, and chart a course for a more effective future. The world is watching to see if the UN can rise to the occasion and prove its enduring value. Examining the UN's relevance amidst global crises. The UN's capacity for effective intervention is being tested like never before. Recent events, particularly in Gaza and Ukraine, have exposed the organization's vulnerabilities. The UN has struggled to broker ceasefires and provide humanitarian aid. The Security Council, often paralyzed by divisions, has been unable to pass resolutions. Russia's invasion of Ukraine, a clear violation of international law, has seen limited action from the UN. These crises underscore the urgent need for reform within the UN system. The UN's ability to adapt will determine its relevance in the years to come. The call for unity. Guterres' plea for compromise on the world stage. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has been vocal in his calls for unity and compromise among member states. Recognizing the existential threats facing humanity, from climate change to nuclear proliferation, Guterres has urged world leaders to prioritize dialogue and cooperation over confrontation. His pleas for multilateralism harken back to the founding principles of the UN, emphasizing the interconnectedness of global challenges. Guterres has repeatedly stressed the need for a renewed social contract based on shared responsibility and solidarity. He has called for greater investment in diplomacy, conflict prevention, and peace-building efforts. Acknowledging the shortcomings of the UN system, he has also advocated for reforms to make the organization more effective, transparent, and accountable. However, Guterres' calls for unity and compromise face significant obstacles. The current geopolitical climate is characterized by heightened tensions, mistrust among major powers, and a resurgence of nationalism. The COVID-19 pandemic, while initially prompting calls for global solidarity, has also exacerbated existing inequalities and fueled divisions between nations. Despite these challenges, Guterres remains resolute in his belief that multilateralism is the only viable path forward. He continues to urge world leaders to embrace dialogue, bridge divides, and work together to address the pressing issues facing humanity. His unwavering commitment to diplomacy and cooperation serves as a beacon of hope in an increasingly uncertain world. The power to obstruct, navigating the deadlocks of the Security Council. The UN Security Council, tasked with maintaining international peace and security, often finds itself mired in gridlock. The veto power held by the 5 permanent members, the United States, Russia, China, France, and the United Kingdom, while intended to prevent unilateral action, frequently hinders the passage of meaningful resolutions. This dynamic is particularly evident in situations where the interests of the permanent members diverge, often along geopolitical fault lines. Critics argue that the veto power is a relic of a bygone era, reflecting the power dynamics of the post-World War II order rather than the realities of the 21st century. They point to instances where the veto has been used to shield allies from accountability, obstruct humanitarian interventions, and prevent the Council from taking decisive action to address atrocities. Proponents of the veto power, however, argue that it remains an essential safeguard against rash decisions and ensures that the Council's actions have the backing of the most powerful nations. They contend that abolishing or limiting the veto would undermine the Council's authority and could lead to greater instability on the world stage. The debate over the veto power reflects broader questions about the legitimacy and representativeness of the Security Council. Calls for reform have intensified in recent years, with many member states advocating for an expansion of the Council to better reflect the geopolitical realities of the 21st century.